little upbeat music to get us started here in our inaugural episode here of You've Got to Be Shot-Tinning Me with friend Matt Carlson. Matt, how are you doing?
Doing well, Josh. How are you?
Good, good. So, we at a certain point realized that it would be like midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4 a.m. And we're still firing away at shot 10, and we're like, hey, we should we should do something. We should try to talk about this a little bit. I know you and I approach things slightly differently as in regards to it, but I don't know. I think it's just a fun betting product. I think there should be a little bit more exposure to this. I've talked with Caitlin Free about stuff every once in a while about shot 10, but I don't know. It's just fun to bet, and I don't know. It's just a really really great thing to do on Saturday night after a couple of beers. And
Absolutely.
and Matt, for our first episode, obviously, there's only one beer I could have started, and that's last year's. They put their Bourbon County Stout out last year in 12-ounce bottles. So I got a nice little Bourbon County here. Yes, I know we're handicapping wagering in bourbon. We're gonna have a little asterisk there where barrel aged beer is also included there.
It's fair enough. And I will say, right, I mean, I didn't go as aggressive as you, but to celebrate your ever increasing Christmas tree collection, I went with the seasonal Mad Elf from Tregs. So,
Oh,
cheers
there
to
you
you.
go. My wife say she's a big fan of the Great Lakes Christmas Ale.
I do like that, and I can't actually get that here. I used to travel
Really?
to Cleveland a lot for work, and they do not distribute to my neck of the woods, unfortunately. But I have
Um,
imbibed in many of those and stumbled my way back to a hotel in Cleveland
I
back
know a
in a
guy. I
former
know a
life.
guy if you
So
need some because they can it now.
they do.
They can it now. It's
That's
in
really good
12
to
pack
know.
cans. So, which for those of you not in the know, is a little easier to ship. But yeah, so we got this year's rendition. It's a little off. I don't know. To me, it tastes a little bit different, but my wife still thinks it's delicious. She just calls me the Grinch and says I don't have enough holiday cheer. So, but yeah, so obviously, part of the reason we both like shot tennis because we're just degenerates and are up late at night
Yeah.
on Saturdays and playing it, or Fridays sometimes. But what else kind of attracted you to kind of focusing a little bit more on shot ten, or
Yeah,
Hong Kong in general?
for sure. I mean, I'd say first and foremost, you're right. Right, the schedule. As an insomniac, as someone who personally has two young kids, that's up at all hours of the evening and whatnot. Right. I mean, that's the time that fits me best is putting the kids to bed, like you said, imbibing in a few cocktails, and then shot 10 pops on at midnight or 1 a.m. and you're ready to go. So I will say this is probably the most sober I've kept this car in a long time. So that we'll see how it does. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. And that and obviously Shot 10 runs one night a week on usually Saturday nights into Sunday mornings. Sometimes they run on Fridays, but that's once every other month or so. And then Happy Valley runs in the mornings, right? I mean that's coming off at about 6 a.m. It starts 7 a.m. depending on the time change, and that especially during COVID I think fit my work schedule, right? I mean you're hopping on in the morning, you're getting ready, you're working from home, there's not much else on, there's not much else running or much else to do at 7 a.m. So just from a timing perspective that kind of fit my schedule. Other than that, right, I mean I think it's one of the best products in the world. You have full fields all the time, right? You're running it usually 12 horses at Happy Valley, upwards of 14 horses every single race at Shot 10 weekly. That's 9-10 races a card. It's all turf or mostly turf, right? I mean there's some all weather at Shot 10, but just a great product, right? And we'll get into a little bit of maybe get into how they card races and how they use the handicap system and class system. But I mean, realistically, right, that kind of regression to mean, that strategy always makes sure that you're having really competitive races, right? There's little edges, but because of that, I think the prices are always there too, right? I mean, you'll see favorites winning, upwards of 25-30% of the time. Yeah, but you're still getting either a good price on those, or when they're not favorites coming in, you're seeing 10, 11, 12 to ones on a pretty regular basis. And I don't think you see that much in kind of U.S. domestic dirt racing, which is what I think you and I are probably more accustomed to day in day out. So. Yeah, I mean, both those things kind of make it to me one of the best products in the world, as well as accessibility to data, things like that. Right, they're open and honest with everything, so you feel like you're betting on a real Square product and seeing everything that's out there too.
Yeah, and I definitely, I know for sure that the data part is a big thing for you, since you do your own stuff. You manipulate some of their information, and come up with your own thing. Whether or not it's good, we've yet to be seen, since
we're
I
still
know.
we're still working on that, but
But
have I turned any money on it? Not so much, but yeah. Anything that I do realistically isn't something proprietary, isn't something that I'm getting from the back end, anything, right? I mean, I'm pulling data strict from their website and trying to figure out, okay, what are those little edges that you can get off of that? Where can you identify what a horse kind of wants to do, or where they may have been up against it with a wide draw or something like that, and do they have a better spot this time, a better chance, and can you get a better price because of that?
yeah, yeah, it's definitely one of the cool things about it. There are different places you can get PPs. Just kind of, if you're not familiar with Shot 10, obviously there's the Hong Kong Jockey Club site. And what's cool about that site is you can basically find any kind of replays, any kind of train workouts. You can find vet reports. You can find everything from PPs on there as well. They have some rudimentary like speed maps, and they have like energy figures, which I use sometimes, but I really haven't
I
just figured out
I
what
couldn't
that
tell you
is.
what those are. They seem
Yeah.
useful, but I think the more use there is it tries to estimate what the pace is going to be, right? And it does actually a pretty fair job of estimating. Okay, how's a race going to shape up, right? If you're used to a time form pace analysis, I mean that they're trying to do the same thing, but it's a free product, right? It is open for you to see how a race may shape. So if you think, hey, I think this horse could wire, or it looks like it's got an easy lead, you can use that for free. It's out there. They're kind of giving it to you. They're giving you the answer to the test. So
And I'll say that the Hong Kong locals apparently do not believe in pace, because the amount of times I've seen a slow pace on marked, and I'm like, oh, that horse is getting the lead, let's bet it, and like horse is like 12 to 1, like a very very square price, and it's just
if
like,
if you were watching Wednesday, seventh race, 17-1 came in on a horse that cleared by 4 lengths and just ran around the track like it was Saya's running at Saratoga, right? I
yeah,
mean, just flat out running slow and crossed the line 4 lengths in front, 17-1, easy price. So
yeah. So yeah, so there's a lot of stuff there, a lot to unpack. Also, I believe DRF partners with is it Sky Racing World,
yep.
who puts out PPs for Australia. So if you've ever messed around with Australia and gotten like the quote unquote free PPs from anywhere, from Sky Racing, they're probably from Sky Racing World. They also put out PPs um, for Hong Kong. So kind of you can decide what you'd like to use. I personally like to use the official ones. They don't have any speed figures, but they got a lot of sectionals and stuff on there. I'll pop it up real quick just because I got it here on the other page. But they're unlike American PPs. Obviously, they read from top to bottom. So the last race is actually the bottom race, and then you see the condition for today kind of listed there as the blank there on the bottom. Um, you get some arrows for going up, moving down in class. There's obviously a class system. There's a lot of stuff there, and I think as we kind of into a couple more episodes, we'll drop little tidbits here and there for stuff like the class system, and kind of what we're looking at.
Yep. Sure.
And I think today, uh, we were talking a little bit before, and I think today's lesson, it might be a very simple one, which is maybe you just bet the best jock in the colony every single race, which is Zach Purton. For those of you who don't follow. We were talking a little bit before, and you seem to think that he's got a really, really good shot in all three of the races here. So we'll kind of start here with race 9, which is the Botch Jockey Club Cup. We're going 2,000 meters here, and you got. I haven't looked at the board yet, but obviously you got 9 horses in this race. All of them do have local starts, which is something you always got to watch out for. Sometimes you look at these PPs and you're like, hey, this horse has never lost, and then you realize he's from Australia. But yeah, you got 9 horses in this race. Where did you kind of start here with the late pick three?
Yeah, so I think, like anything, I think my style of play is if I see a favorite, I immediately try and figure out how to get around it. And I don't know if Russian Emperor goes off as favorite here, but he's probably the hype horse in this race. It's funny, we start out on a graded race, right? So most of the races you'll see are very much like handicapped in weight, right? You'll see that number one horse start off at like 135 pounds, and then the 12 or 14 horse will go off somewhere around 120, 115, somewhere in there. Graded races, that's the one spot where this doesn't happen, right? Every horse is pretty much given the same weight. In this case, except for Russian Emperor. Right? Russian Emperor gets an extra 5 pounds on him because, he comes in with a little bit of extra class and a little bit of extra rating. So, um, you know, because of that, I would say I'll start with who I don't like. I really don't like Russian Emperor in this race at all. I think the horse is going to take a lot of money, and I think realistically, the horse lifetime has 2 or 3 wins out of 22, 23 races. I think that's a lot of advertising, and that's not a lot of substance to me. So that's one that I'm gonna try and get around. 1 for 7 lifetime at the distance, probably needs longer. So I think that's somewhere where I'm intentionally not going to go. I think the other horse I really didn't like, the 4 horse 5G patch. I think, to me, something that Hong Kong does is, right, they take a break during the summer. They take about a month and a half or 2 months off, and a lot of times you'll see horses come back and you'll see a form change, right? And to me, the last couple efforts on this 4 horse on 5G patch have just not been there, right? The horse has looked like it's lost a step. It looks really off form. So I think that's another one that's probably going to take a fair bit of money that I really want to get around. And so that's kind of who I plan not to bet. So okay, great. I can pick a loser like anybody, but who do I actually want in here? You mentioned Zach, right? I mean, I think this is what he does, right? He's the best jockey in the colony. Every year he's upwards of 25, 30% wins. He had a little bit of a slow start. There's probably a couple reasons for that. This actually is probably the first year he's able to travel to other tracks and run. Previously, they kept him in colony. So, yeah, he's had maybe a little bit of a downturn with travel, but, Shatin is his bread and butter, right? This is what he does. This is where he wins races, and you see him in the big time races at Shatin. I think he's always a must use. So I think number 7, Sword Point, is a likely play here, right? It'll probably take money. He'll probably go off, second, third choice, but probably one that you got to use. The other horse I like is actually the 5 horse Glorious Dragon, right? He hasn't raced in locally since I think February or so. He actually shipped over to Maiden and ran in a turf race over there, and he's had probably 6 months off since then, if not longer, maybe even 8. But I think kind of coming back, you're seeing he had a trial at a mile. You mentioned they run training races kind of in between, right? He won his trial coming back at a full mile, so he's got some fitness in him. I really love horses off layoffs here for a couple reasons, and mostly because Hong Kong's really strict about letting horses race again, right? If they've had some time off, they got to show that they're in fitness and run. And I think because they're really strict about that, you get horses off layoffs that can run at pretty big numbers and run pretty live. So I think the figures fit. I think the horse can show something. So I think those are kind of my 2 choices: the 5 Glorious Dragon and the 7 Sword Point.
Yeah, I'm not very creative here either. I really do like the 5 Glorious Dragon. That's probably my top pick in here. Kind of got some sneaky form, some back class here, having run against the likes of like Golden 60. Obviously, they shipped him over to UAE. I haven't really seen many of the Hong Kong horses run very well after shipping. So we'll kind of excuse that, and then it looks like he was scratched for that April race, and which was another race that Golden 60 won.
Yeah.
So and I think that race that he ran 2 back, going 2,000 meters there against Golden 60. He finished 4th. by 2 1/4 lengths. And he was 1,000,000 to 1 in that race, but he ran pretty well in there. And if you look at the class of a lot of these horses are jumping up in class. These are horses that are running in grade not grade one, the upper level of the
Yeah, like
handicap
class
divisions,
two, et
class, yeah,
cetera. Yeah.
class 2, class 1. um and yeah, you have Russian Emperor here, who does have a win in a Group 1, but that was going 2,400 meters. That was going to 12 furlongs. I just don't. I think that this horse does need a little bit longer. So I'm going to fade the 1 here. And I really think that the 5 Glorious Dragon is going to get a lot of class relief here. There's not any world beaters in this race. And I think that he's going to show up in a very, he's getting much needed class relief. I think here, like you said, they're very stringent about these horses coming off layoffs. So I think this horse is going to be coming in here firing. Gets at Zenny aboard, who's winning at about 9%, I think, this year.
Hasn't been great, but serviceable. Right? So
Yeah. And you find that a lot. Like you'll get, I mean, obviously, like when Morera was here, you'd see him and Purton at 15, 20%, so in between there. And like it's like the two of them would win the big majority of races, and then there was just a big fall off. And I don't really know if there's really been a guy to step up and kind of take that 1A spot from where Morera is. I mean, Karis Teton obviously always wins quite a few races. I actually think he's a little bit better on the dirt,
yeah,
the all weather track. So and that's kind of where Morera also shown as well. Like that's when he would beat Purton for the riding title. It's because he had so many more wins on the all weather track than
yep,
Purton would. So, but yeah, I really do like the 5 Glorious Dragon here as my top pick. I don't think you can ignore the 7 Sword Point, who kind of had a bit of an off run last time. But Purton saw fit to stay here. And oftentimes when you go through some of these horses PPs, you'll see Purton all over it. He's ridden, I think, another horse in this race. Maybe it was like the 8 at some point. But the fact that he stays aboard here, I think, is a good thing. So yeah, I'm 5 as my A, and Sword Point here kind of is a B. I'm trying to pull the odds up, but I don't know if the odds board is live yet.
yeah.
Um,
It's a little bit early, so I don't know if I found it.
yeah.
And I will say, right. I mean, I capped this without morning lines, so I don't know the exact prices you're going to get on these. I guess while you're looking at that, I do have one other play. If you are playing, either exactas or tries, I talk a lot about getting a horse to what it wants to do here. Finding the distance, finding the right kind of track for it and how it can run. Um, you know, you kind of get in these situations where you have unknown horses too, and I think potential for that. A horse that's never actually tried the distance, never actually run, is the 9 Nimble Nimbus. I don't think the fig's fit to win this race at all. I don't think it really has a chance on the win line, but it gets the rail draw, which is hugely important, especially at shot 10, right? Like there's obviously 9 gates having the rail. You kind of see it. The further in you are, closer to the rail you are, the better chances you have. I think going the longer distance can probably flash some speed, can probably get the lead, maybe hold on for a slice too at a decent price. So if you're looking to fill out, an exacta or a try at a decent number, maybe that 9 can catch a piece for you.
Yeah. Let's move on here. We got a one turn sprint here going 6 furlongs here, 1,200 meters. I was going to say the Bok Choy, but no, it's the Bok Pay handicap here, also known as race 10. Yeah, we kind of skipped over this at the beginning, but we're looking at the late pick 3. Well, there are a lot of horizontal type bets that they have at Hong Kong. However, us Americans are a little bit locked out of them currently. They have some really fun bets like the triple trio, which is basically you have to hit 3 trifectas in a row, and it's you basically have to get like every combination. Like it gets exponentially expensive to play, but it's a really cool bet. Obviously, they have a pick six. My friend Tommy Massis is, he cashed that once for like $1.5 million or something. And yeah, there's just like there's a lot of stuff there. But they've been expanding, so it sounds like I think they have rolling doubles now,
They do.
and
Yep.
they have two pick threes now. So they have a pick three that starts in one like the race 2 or 3, and then they have the last 3 races. Important to note, there is a consolation if your horse runs second in the last leg. So it pays winner, winner, and then pays first, and then it pays a consolation if your horse runs second in the last leg. So
Yeah. So definitely use that to structure if you're doing that, right?
yeah.
I know I've played a lot of single all bets just because hey, if you catch a price, even second, sometimes it pays better than winning first if you get a live long shot in there. So
Yeah, it's kind of like the Grand Slam bet a little bit, except kind of in reverse.
the
So
other way, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, race 10. We're gonna be going 6 furlongs here, and there's something that I know I've made a couple of nice scores using this, and sometimes this race might be a little bit tough just because there's a lot of these. But a lot of times, these first time runners coming from Australia or coming from France, where sometimes they buy these horses, you know, they sometimes they come in here and they're a little sneaky. And if you kind of look through the PPs, I mean, you got a horse like the two Celestial Colors, who obviously is coming off 2 wins. Was running in Group Two races, or had a Group Two race in Australia. You got the Air here, the 6 horse, who once again coming off 2 wins. And somebody in the Reddit Discord, and this is just kind of like an off comment that I happened to see. But what ends up happening is like these horses, they win like a race, and maybe they break a maiden and then win another race. And basically, these guys in Hong Kong literally watch all the Australian races, and if they see any horse that's got even a little bit of promise, they're on the phone. And it was funny because this person I don't know if they own the horse outright, if they're in a partnership, but they were a little concerned because they said that Hong Kong has been calling as often because like they're like, yeah, my horse like won 2 races in a row. Normally, like someone calls, is like trying to buy this horse like right away. So, was just like an interesting little tidbit there. But I remember there was a French horse that shipped in, and went off at like 60 to 1, and the horse was like had run like 6 times and won 5, and was like, I mean, obviously the horse is shipping into a new place, it's going to be off a layoff and everything. But I was like, I'll take a flyer at like 50 to 1. And I think I had like a $5 win bet, and I had a Quinella with it in like the favorite. The Quinella paid like $150 for a buck, and I had it for like $2 or $3, and I had like 5 to win. It was just like insane. I cashed like $600 in like $7 bet or something.
Yeah.
But something that you see a lot of here, and like in the standard PPs, you don't really get speed figures for these horses. You don't get sectionals, but you do have a couple of horses coming in here with good overseas form. So I don't know. My eyes usually go towards them. I know often sometimes they just don't get bet because people don't like the locals don't like betting these shippers. But how do you kind of handle that? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of dependent, right? I mean, I think I've tried a lot of things, but kind of the blessing and the curse of it is you really don't know how form's going to hold in some of these places, right? I will say we mentioned before, like the speed map and form guide that the Hong Kong site puts out for you, right? When a horse hasn't run over here, they'll actually do in paragraph format like what they think of it, right? They'll summarize the overseas races and kind of tell you at the end, do we really think this horse has a chance, or is it kind of spotted in the wrong way? Um, the weird thing is, right, like if a horse is running for the first time, normally they'll spot them pretty much in the same spot, right? You'll see the 6 and the 7 horse. This is a handicap race, so they kind of have to start them in the middle, right? They have to start them at a certain rating, and that's generally a sign that hey, it's kind of an average horse. It kind of we're not sure. maybe some of those are live, and you can watch things like trials and things like that, right? You can watch those practice races that it's run, and kind of get an estimate. But really sometimes it's your best guess, and like you said, right? I mean, if you see a price that's drifting up on that horse and you think it has any shot whatsoever, throw it in. Because a lot of times, like you said, they do have form. They're not like, it's not like racing 2 year olds in the U.S. They're coming in at pretty pretty advanced, right? I mean, it's not like they have no race experience. So, somewhere where you can probably find a price. Um, all that said, I mean, Celestial Colors is probably the opposite of all that. I think it's a huge hype horse from a first time. If you look at its last trial, it was going toe to toe with California Spangle, who is one of the
Hmm.
top like graded horses in the colony, right? I mean, it granted it's on the all weather, but I mean, it gets out early, it gets a lead, and obviously, they're not asking California Spangle, a graded horse, to do any running in a trial whatsoever. But I do think people are going to see that and they're going to say, hey, this horse is going toe to toe with a graded stakes race horse. It's got to be the goods, right? There's a lot of hype behind this one. There's a lot of weight behind it. And speaking of which, right, you see that its weight is at 130. They move it up. It's handicapped a little bit higher because it's won trials before. So it's rated a little bit higher than that 6 or 7 horse or that 11 horse that haven't actually ever raced. I think I've tried watching trials, and to me, I think Celestial Colors is one of those horses that you got to look for the price on. The nice thing about having doubles now in the U.S., which we didn't previously have, is you can probably see what that price is going to be. Previously, we didn't have insight to that, right? We had no idea. You were kind of just playing your best guess. For this, if you have double probables, you can check that and say, hey, is this horse going to go off favored? Or is it going to, kind of be a solid 3, 4, or 5 to 1? I think if you get 3, 4, or 5 to 1 on this horse, it's definitely a use. I think if it's even money, there's enough greenness there. If you watch the trials, it's kind of running sideways 2 races ago. It's running with its tongue out last time. There's enough questions there where maybe you can get around it. But at the same time, if that price is so low, if you're looking below even money, even who knows, kind of come race day. Probably a lot of people have a lot of information on this one. It's probably pretty live, but again, I think there's a lot of weight behind this one where other horses that you mentioned running for the first time are probably more unknowns, and you can get a pretty decent price on them.
Yeah, I definitely think that he's going to be one I use in the pick three. I think he's going to, you don't often see, kind of the notes that you see kind of on like the trial. He's given 4 trials and he's won 3 of them,
Yeah,
which is just kind of wild because like you'll see these horses come over and maybe they'll win 1 out of 4 trials or 1 out of 3 or something, but he's won 3 of them and he placed in the last one. So
yeah. Like I said, to that graded horse, right? I mean, it's by a nose, so
yeah,
there's a lot of ability there for sure.
yeah. I think outside of the 2 horse, um, the other horse I like, and and especially in the handicap system, I do sometimes, like, especially like in this race, right? You're going to get 6-year-old, 7-year-old, horses in this race. Sometimes I like looking at the 4-year-olds, the 5-year-olds, the lightly raced horses. The 4 Galaxy Patch here. I'm guessing he might go off as your favorite. I'm not really sure. We'll have to double check with we'll have to look at the form, or the odds when they get updated here. But Galaxy Patch came out first time start at 1200. At Shatin, won. Basically missed the break on a slow pace, and basically 200 meters out, finally found a gap and just went through it and just closed off, and won pretty strongly there. Paid a pretty nice price. I think he was like 6.5 to 1. And for some reason they decided to try all weather next time out, and basically, I mean, the note says began fairly, no threat. Was 2 wide and 4 wide going on the dirt. Just like, yeah, just didn't run that great, and much like American horses, it's probably a turf horse, like doesn't want to run in all weather. And the all weather in Shatin is actually dirt. They just call it all weather. So if you see that, it is not polytrack. It's actually just straight up dirt. Um, so the horse just didn't take to the dirt. Coming back to the turf here at the same trip, not the uh, same exact layout, but same distance that he ran first time out. So I think getting back to that, I think I definitely see the horse improving. So I'm probably just going to be 2-4 here. I'm guessing that's going to be pretty chalky, but I don't know where did you kind of land?
Yeah, similar, right? And I mean, I think I was trying to figure out why they even ran this horse on the all weather, and the only thing I could come up with is trying to game the handicap system a little bit, right? Kind of
Mm,
doing that Linda Rice thing of saying, look, if this horse ran or won 2 races in a row, right? They think it has some ability if it runs, right? If you win your first 2 out, you're moving up in class, and this horse is already in class 3. You're throwing it up into class 2. Beyond that, you're going up against some really heavy hitting horses in class 2 when you get up there, and probably ownership and the connections thought, hey, rather have another race under its belt. So let's just throw it on a track where it has no chance, right? Keep it at that same weight. The rating of the horse doesn't go up. It stays where it is, right? You get that extra experience. The old Linda Rice move where you put them on the wrong surface the first time and then they run lights out second time when you switch everything up on them. Just because, look, they have a different race under their belt now, right? They have that running experience, but that first time that isn't what the horse really wanted to do. So a little bit of a reverse from that second time out. But yeah, I mean, that replay is impressive, right? It comes from out of nowhere and kind of clips Northern Beaches actually in that shared race. So I mean, I do think I'm 4-8 in that respect, right? I mean, for Galaxy Patch is the horse that it came up, like you said, in that first out and got out by a nose in the first race. Northern Beaches, the horse it beat in that shared race 2 back. I think that last one's definitely a toss, right? I mean, last race it was breaking from the 11 post. It's 3 wide. It never gets inside of 3 wide, right? It's just in the 3 path the whole way around. It loses so much ground, and in turf racing, when you're losing that much ground, I mean, it just kind of gives up. It's got no chance. 2 back, if you look at the running line at first call, it's fourth. It's never actually listed as leading, but if you watch that replay about 300-400 yards from the finish, it's out by 3 lengths, right? I mean, it looks like a winner all the way.
yeah.
And Zach gets up now, right? And we'll go back to the tried and true of, if you have Matthew Chadwick up and that horse is clear by 3 lengths, can Zach get an extra nose to hold off Galaxy Patch? I think so. And if you can get Zach at a decent price for a horse that's got in the lead, it's worth a play. So, I'm 4-8 and checking the price on the 2. Kind of very similar to the way you've handicapped it.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here to the last race here, the payoff flag, race 11. Obviously, if you are playing the pick 3, you get paid for first, and you get a little console for second here. We're going 1,400 meters. It looks like we are going. Looks like this is class 2 here, and class 3, excuse me.
Yep.
And my guess is your favorite here is going to be this 4-horse Simple Hedge. Gets Zach Purton aboard again. Horse is coming off of 2 straight wins. It's John Size, who is I don't know if he's still the top guy, but he was for the longest time was one of the top guys at Shot-10. It looks like he may be off to a bit of a slow start. He's only got 6 wins, but yeah, I mean, this horse is coming in with everything seemed to be going the right way. This horse is probably on its way to maybe even a jump up in class after another win if he wins again. But where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was looking for reasons to get around the 4. I was looking for reasons to say, hey, I don't want this horse. The best I can come up with is those last 2 wins are on yielding surfaces, right? I mean, it's pouring, right? And if you want another difference between Hong Kong and domestic racing, that is like a monsoon that's going on during that race. They are you can almost not see the track, and they run, right? I mean, unless it's a typhoon, which canceled 1 card this year, they don't come off turf. They run the races and they keep it on grass. And so, maybe the horse wants some cut in the ground, and maybe hey, it's run on yielding surfaces the last 2, and obviously, you're going to get firm, come Sunday. So, is it doing something it doesn't want? Does it not get there? Are you getting the not as good a price for it kind of wanting some cut in the ground? Not sure. I think you have to use it, right? It's Zach. It's shot 10. We've been over that 3 times already. So I think it's an obvious pick. One thing in this race, there's a shared race last out between 5 of these horses. The 3, 5, 6, 7, and 11 horses all ran at shot 10, and I think the 6 horse Massive Action was the one who wired that last time, right? It kind of got the rail and just ran out. Nobody pressed it. And it just ran around and kind of held on to a lead. Watching that race, I guess not too much is impressive. You have the 5 horse Tamara Blitz who kind of sat on the rail the whole time, made up some ground late, but it really didn't do much, right? It got the Dream Trip and still didn't go anywhere. The 1 horse with an excuse in there to me is the 7 Golden Samurai. It breaks from the 12 post. Zach was on it. Zach hops off. That's probably not a great sign, but with that, he kind of sent it, and I don't think the horse really wanted to do that, right? He kind of looked like he was breaking from the 12 post and said, "Hey, I got to go because I'm that wide." And he sends, and he's sitting too wide, and he kind of looks over, and he's like, "What the hell am I doing?" And so the horse just kind of floats there and never really does anything. It looks kind of out of place. So to me, I'm willing to excuse that, right? The 6 horse Massive Action was getting 7 or 8 pounds on that horse because it won last time, right? It picks up that weight. So now that 7 horse, gets an advantage from what it previously had. So to me, there's enough excuses where I think I use Golden Samurai as an A, probably along with Simple Hedge, just as the cop out price play. I think the other horse with excuses probably could be Brave Dreams. You kind of have excuses for the last 2. Last out, it ran at Happy Valley at a mile. It probably doesn't want to go that far. 2 back, it was running straight from the 14 draw, right? If you probably know anyone that's watched this, the downside of running 12, 14 horses a race is you can draw way out there. And if you're breaking from the 12 to 14 spot, you can have some pretty bad efforts, right? You're just stranded out there and you get caught out there, and, jockeys kind of give up, right? There's just nothing they can do. They'll either do some weird stuff like try and send or, cut back, or just kind of stay in a 14 path for a while and the horse will look like crap. So, I do think the effort 3 back from the 1 Brave Dreams could be enough here. So to me, I was, 4, 7 as A's and the 1 as a B.
Yeah, I looked at the pace projector on this one, and it has it listed as a good pace, and I think part of that might be because of the ride last time out on the 7. They have the 7 kind of sitting just off the 6, but I kind of agree with you. I just don't think that's going to be the trip here. So if the 7's not going to go, I think the only pace pressure the 6 could possibly have is going to come from the 2. Is it Magniac?
Yep.
Who just by the sheer fact that this is a horse that's kind of gotten second, been sitting off a length and a half, 2 lengths, but just going much shorter, or going a little bit shorter. Going 1,200, going 1,000, going 5, 6 furlongs. Now we're moving up to that 7 furlong distance. And just because this horse has been kind of close up, going those slightly shorter distances, maybe there's a chance that this horse, fights for the lead a little bit. But I don't know. I really do like Massive Action in here. I think this could be another a repeat of last time where the horse kind of gets out and just kind of goes. You mentioned the weight, and if you kind of look, the horse ran, with a bug up, was carrying 112, 115 before, and I mean finished second by a shoulder one time, but I don't really think the added 7 or 8 pounds that did much for him last time out. So I guess we'll take a shot here that the additional weight isn't going to affect him too much here. So I do like the 6. I think obviously the 4 makes a bit of sense. Another horse that I thought was interesting, just because this is a horse that has been running a little bit longer and is cutting back here, is the 3 Chu Chow Spirit. And this is a horse that, has been running in pretty decent form. Third, picking up checks, third, fourth, with a couple of off efforts in between there. And last time out looked like he was kind of eased off and seemed to kind of rally that last part. So you know, a lot more horses. I mean, obviously he's still drawn outside, but I think if Bedell can kind of keep this horse maybe engaged a little bit earlier, this might be one that it looked he seemed to improve with that cutback last time. Going 1400, so I think maybe another run at this distance, getting another run at this trip, it might maybe you see a little bit of improvement. I think he's got a couple of back races that on Speed Pro fit in this spot. So it could just be getting this horse a couple of runs. Obviously had that 3 month layoff while Hong Kong was off. So second off the layoff here, I thought this might be a little bit interesting horse that might improve off of that same common race. So I'm going to be 4 and 6 here, and I'm going to use a 3 as kind of a B in this spot.
Yeah, for sure. No, I like that 3. My only concern was that I've never seen the horse win. Right, it's got 7 races with no wins. I do think it's, to me, I wrote it in as a vertical filler. Right, like if you're if you're playing exactas and tries and you can catch it underneath. Right, personally, I wanted to see the price on it and I wanted to see a horse win, but I don't disagree with you. Right, that last effort showed some improvement and you're second off the layoff. So hey, I think it could run a big race. So
Yeah. And you'll see that a lot, especially now because they take their break basically between, I think it's like August and October ish. They have those 2 months that they don't run. So right now you're definitely going to see a bunch of these horses that might be running for the first time. I mean, the 4 is coming off basically a 4 month layoff here. Hasn't run since July, which might be enough to kind of turn the tables a little bit.
yeah, it can go
I
both
mean,
ways. Right, they could come back in great form. They could come back slouched. Right, you never know. So that stuff like that only helps your price sometimes, actually. So
yeah, cool. But yeah, this was fun. We're going to continue doing this. This is a reason I think to get us to handicap these sober, which has been a struggle lately. But even in that case, I mean, cheers to the bourbon barrel aged beer here. But yeah, fun weekend planned for me because I will be going to Goose Island for their prop day where they do their releases. So that's gonna be fun. Probably gonna be a shit show because it just always is. I remember last time we went and we were like standing in line for something and they like ran out. It was like they were doing like a mystery bottles you could buy, and you basically would like pay them like $15 or something, and then there's a giant slot machine that you pull, and a random like they would basically there's someone behind there basically handing you a random bottle of like previous year's Bourbon County. They ran out of bottles and we were in line, and so they just gave us more tokens, like tasting tokens, and that was probably the worst thing they could have done, because we were already like 6 samples in, and they're just like, here, have more samples, and there was like a line where like they just didn't take a token too, so like it was madness, but yeah, it should be fun. That's always my favorite beer release of the year. So
enjoy. If you get any tastings of Bramble Rye, I expect Ziploc bag. I can give you my address. You can send them to me. Just pour them in
hey,
the
you
bag
said
and
that you
ship
said
it
that
over.
stuff
So
just sits on the.
the recent stuff does. Okay, the Coca-Cola variant or whatever like that from last year. I can still get armloads of that, but
There you go.
that probably doesn't hold a candle to some of the older stuff. So
Yeah, well, like I said, they were re-releasing it this year, so hopefully it'll be easier to find. But
yeah, I gotta try to go out and find my couple bottles if I can, but
there you go.
we'll see. So
I'm just telling you, dude. Just twist your wife's arm a little bit. Get some of that Cantillon this way, and you'll get some of the barrel aged stuff that way. So,
not a
but
problem. Can do. So
But yeah, Matt, thank you. Thanks for joining me. Obviously, we'll continue to do this. I will at some point spend more effort on the graphics. But that was the best I could do with about 5 minutes notice. But where can people find you?
I got a Twitter. My Twitter handle is at slow and steadied. Steadied like you'd read all my horses that I actually bet on in the form line. So, but yeah, otherwise that you can engage me there, right? If any of my horses lose, please follow and send me DMs that I suck. So
Yeah, I mean that's really the best thing. Hate mail, and that's what everyone strives for. So obviously check us out at wrong_lead on Twitter, on thewronglead.com, and yeah, let's have a good weekend. And this is definitely not the song I thought it was, but hey, we're gonna go out with this anyways. So
rocking out,
see
love
you
it.
guys.